Ready to create Super Friends in Standard? If so, let's party! Hey everyone, it's NerdPhil, and today I'll be showing you a couple cards you can pick up right now if you're thinking about building a Super Friends deck. Now these cards are based around protecting your Planeswalkers, synergizing well with your Planeswalkers, and getting ready for the enchantment and artifact hate that is definitely coming your way. So let's get started with the cards that you should be getting right now. The best cards that hurt a Super Friends deck are based around artifacts and enchantments. You all know about the Immortal Sun, Sorcerer's Spyglass, Ixalan's Binding, Conclave Tribunal. That's just to name a few. These cards will help you prepare for those cards, and if you aren't mainboarding these cards, you should definitely put them in the sideboard. Broken Bond. This card helps you deal with all the hate cards coming your way, helps you ramp, and it's only for 2 mana. This is a fantastic card to consider. Cleansing Nova. Too many creatures? Kill them all. Too much artifact and enchantment hate? Let's blow up those. This card is definitely mainboard worthy in a Super Friends deck. Crush Contraband. I'm not really sure if it matters that you're exiling the hate cards, but getting rid of 2 hate cards, that's super important. The instant speed part of this card makes it considerable enough to be put in the sideboard. Deface. I'm not really sure if the defender part of this card really matters, unless someone is playing an Arcades or High Alert deck around your area, but getting rid of a hate card for 1 mana, definitely worth it. Demystify. Again, you should expect enchantment hate against your deck. This card is instant speed and super cheap, so definitely consider this card. Invoke the Divine. Now, this card gets rid of both artifacts and enchantments and gains you life. It's the perfect card for a Super Friends deck. Naturalize. Again, expect artifact and enchantment hate, so this card answers both of those. I still like Broken Bond a little bit better because you get the additional ramp, but if you prefer instant speed, then this is the card for you. Slice in Twain. Again, gets rid of artifacts or enchantments that are coming your way. You can also draw a card out of this, so it's not a bad deal. Status Statue. Now, you'll most likely be using Statue. It also gets rid of a creature, so playing this for 4 mana is definitely worth it. Creatures that have the ability to remove artifacts and enchantments. Now, these creatures are definitely mainboard worthy in a Super Friends deck. They can defend your Planeswalkers really well, they can attack if you really want to, and they get rid of all the hate cards that are coming your way. Knight of Autumn. You should 1000% mainboard this card if you're all in on Super Friends. It gets rid of Immortal Sun and all the other enchantments that are coming your way, and it has multiple options if you don't need to remove those hate cards. This card is also super cheap right now, so I would get them right now. Reclamation Stage. Another version of Knight of Autumn. You don't get the multiple choices, but it's easier to cast. Thrashing Brontodon. Again, more artifact and more enchantment hate removal. This time, it's on a really good body. This card is 100% mainboard and sideboard worthy. Creatures that help protect or combo with your Planeswalkers. Now, these creatures will help ensure that your Planeswalkers stick around for a little bit longer. Here are some creatures to consider if you're going in on Super Friends. Bard, Steward of Argive. Now, this creature has a decent body, and it forces your opponent to use mana when they really don't want to. Biogenic Ooze. It's a creature that can create more creatures, which means more creatures to defend with, or attack. Cabal Paladin. Now, this card doesn't have amazing stats, but doing 2 damage for basically playing your cards is a pretty sweet deal. Diligent Excavator. This card has decent stats for blocking, and if it sticks around, you could really mill out your opponent for a lot for just every card you play. Unless there's a good 2 CMC Planeswalker, this card is definitely worth considering. Dream Eater. Now, this card can stop 2 creatures from attacking your Planeswalkers, and it can set up your next turn really well. Forbidding Spirit. Now, the stats on this card are so-so, but the true strength of this card is that it basically buys you a turn or forces your opponent to use mana when they really don't want to. Think of this card as a bard with a short time effect. Frilled Mystic. Now, our counterspell on a body is a sweet 2-for-1. With that in mind, you should also expect this card to be used against you. Hero of the Precinct 1. Now, this creature is probably the best 2-drop creature slot for a Super Friends deck. It creates you a bunch of blockers after turn 2. This card isn't going to get any cheaper, so I'd really consider getting your copies now for your main board. Joyra, the Weatherlight Captain. Now, I'm not sure if Super Friends wants to spend 4 mana on a card that can die to Lightning Strike, but it's really good in a long and grindy matchup. It has the perfect draw engine just in case Super Friends is running out of cards to draw. Kinjali's Sunwing. Now, stopping Hasty Boys from attacking your Planeswalker and messing up your loyalty count for your Planeswalkers is really important. This card also has decent stats, so definitely worth mainboarding. Mishras Self-Replicator. Now, this card really should have been 3 mana, and at most 4, but the designers were probably worried that this card could get really out of hand in Commander. That being said, this card can really provide a lot of blockers for every single Planeswalker you play. Wrath Capuchin, Ship's Mage. Now this card is a real MVP for Super Friends. Playing your Planeswalkers at instant speed is really good, and you can ensure you get one solid use for those Planeswalkers. Shalai, Voice of Plenty. Look, I used to play this card in a mono green deck because I really hated Settle the Wreckage. This card also gives hexproof to your Super Friends, so that's just really good. This card basically forces your opponent to use mana when they really don't want to, so this card definitely should go in your main board if you're considering Super Friends. Trexon, Scourge of Crude. Now this card hits really hard and defends really well. This card untaps for basically every card you play, so don't worry about that requirement. Instants, sorceries, artifacts, and enchantments that help your Super Friends. Now these cards will help ensure that your Planeswalkers are still on the field, protect them in a different manner, or just find them in your deck. Blink of an Eye. Now this card can help bounce the biggest creature coming at your Planeswalker or you yourself. It can also bounce the Planeswalker to your hand if you need to keep it alive. Board the Weatherlight. Now if you're going to be playing a lot of legendaries, you might as well pick the best one out of them. Unless there's a good 2MC Planeswalker, this card is worth mainboarding. Curator's Ward. This card helps protect your Planeswalker from Vraska's Contempt, Assassin Trophy, Bedevil, and a lot more. This enchantment can also potentially draw you a card. I think 3 mana for this is a little bit iffy at best, but to ensure that your Planeswalker sticks around for a lot longer might be worth it. Depose, Deploy. Now this card buys you time and can also provide you blockers. It's the perfect tempo card in a Super Friends deck. Disperse. It's like Blink of an Eye, but kind of worse. If you're looking for more bounce effects, you can play this card as well. Electro Dominance. Now getting rid of a creature and playing a Planeswalker for free is a pretty sweet deal. This card was speculated to be good and it never really took off. This card might just redeem its original reputation in a Super Friends deck. Healing Grace. This card prevents damage that would be dealt to your Planeswalkers and it gains you life. It's fantastic for just 1 mana. Mox Amber. You know why this card is so expensive. Play for free and rent forever. Oath of Teferi. Now I think people are overhyping this card just a little bit too much. There's a lot of good cards that get rid of enchantments right now. That being said, if this card sticks around, your Planeswalkers are going to ult a lot faster. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. Now 7 mana is a lot to pay, but if this card gets back all your Planeswalkers, it's definitely worth considering. Settle the Score. Now I don't like the fact that this card is sorcery speed, but it exiles a really problematic creature and it lets one of your Planeswalkers ult faster. Slaughter the Strong. Now in a creature light deck, this card is fantastic. You're basically ensuring that their biggest threat is gone. Thran Temporal Gateway. You can just cheat all your Planeswalker with this singular card. Legendary Sorceries. Now these cards naturally become better in a deck where the legendary requirement is always met. I'll rate them from worst to best so you can think about what you want to play in your deck. Kamal's Druidic Vow. Now everybody knows this card pretty much sucks. Still, getting multiple Planeswalkers in a single turn can really hurt your opponent, and they'll have to consider whether it's worth countering a spell that's left to chance. Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. Getting rid of their biggest threat and getting a Planeswalker back for 5 mana, that's a fantastic deal. I think Urza's Ruinous Blast is better than this card, but if you're not in white, this card is a fantastic substitute. Jaya's Immolating Inferno. This card can do some serious damage to 2 creatures and the opponent's face, if you really want to go there. Karn's Temporal Sundering. Now I'm a little worried this card is going to reappear in a Nexus of Fate deck, and I just really hope it doesn't. And finally, Urza's Ruinous Blast. Now this card solves all your problems, except Immortal Sun, which is why we're mainboarding artifact removal. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope this video helps you prepare for building a Planeswalker heavy deck if you're looking to do that. I'll be releasing more Magic the Gathering videos related to War of the Spark and helping you prepare for pre-release and the draft environment. Go ahead and check out my last video somewhere that talks about cards that can answer these Planeswalkers if you're looking to try and beat them. Thank you everyone for your tremendous support, and I'll see you next time for your NerdPhil.